Howdy y'all, this is Texas Gaming Industries, and welcome back to another episode of my Let's Play of Railway Empire. In the previous episode, we expanded to the south and connected San Antonio, as well as connecting westward to Salt Lake City, Utah. In this episode, we're gonna basically continue expanding our railroad and hopefully acquiring new locomotives and accessing new towns and industries. So let's begin with a simple connection between San Antonio and Oklahoma City. It's surprising, really, that nearly 20 years, it's been nearly 30 years since our company started, and together you have joined along with me to help build this magnificent railroad company. Of course, I can't take all the credit. It's just, I really like this game. It brings back the old aesthetics of the original Railroad Tycoon series, which I have played every single game. Railroad Tycoon 1, Railroad Tycoon 2, 3, and Sid Meier's Railroads. And they're nothing short but fun. Of course, that curve is a little too tight. We could fix that with a little bit of this. Pass by that mine. Build over these rivers, and then loop back on itself to connect to Oklahoma City. But then I realized that I will not be able to make it that way, because I also have to connect this track node. So first, I'll do this. And this. And now, we can start operating trains from Oklahoma City down south toward San Antonio. Now, considering that the cities down south don't have access to grain farms, I'll have to basically start transporting beer on special trains. Though, I can produce some resources down south with some of these rural industries that are located around here. Like, I could convert milk into cheese, as well as turn cotton into textiles for clothing. There's no sugar around here as well, except for near Albuquerque. I normally prefer connecting industries that are super close to cities. And at the same time, I have yet to basically add signals as well as a servicing facility here. What was I thinking? Okay, now then, I think we'll probably build over this main line and then head towards Odessa. And this track could extend north towards Denver. That way, beer can be brought down to San Antonio. Of course, I have to set the signals up, of course. Then, we'll build a track over this. Actually, I think this has a lot more room. I'm trying to get a 0% gradient to make the track climbing over this line as level as possible. But I can only get a 9%. That's not what I want. I want a 0% by going over the main. However, I could basically do that, make the bridge level, and then there. Problem solved. Of course, I want to make sure that when I go uphill, I don't spend a lot of money on bridges. Let's add a station here at Odessa. If I pronounced the city wrong, I am so sorry. Some of these cities are sometimes pronounced in various ways, and sometimes I just want to make sure that I don't cause any misspellings, so to speak. We'll connect these two cities together. Connected here. Build signals on these two bridges. And now trains can easily travel from Houston to Odessa. Speaking of which, it's time to replace this industry. Oh, and one of my cities is growing. Casper. That's good. Soon enough, the city will be big enough to accept sugar from the nearby farms. Somewhere. Although, there is a logging camp right here. We'll probably connect that when we connect this section of line from Casper to Great Falls, which I think we'll probably do. Plus, Miles City is super close to that, so I could basically deliver some meat there to help get the city grown up, so to speak. I'll have to build a tunnel for this area, curve past the logging camp, build another tunnel. I'll provide some passengers with a scenic vista of this canyon and this trestle. And now, we're finally connected to Great Falls. Perfect. Now, let's add the station to this logging camp, which will be Bishop Chopping, and connect these tracks to the main line. Now, logs can easily be delivered to Casper and to Great Falls, which will be used for building homes. Signals. Ooh. That's not gonna look good, but I could try to basically circumvent it somehow. Like that. Now let's set some trains up before I forget. We don't have any more modern freight hauling engines, so this is the only engines available for this type of task. Speaking of which, we just got some more innovation points for our new locomotive. Now, with 200, we could spend on either this or these two consolidations. This is basically the original consolidation built for the Lehigh Valley. The reason why it's called consolidation was because it was the term given when the various railroads in the Northeast connected or consolidated together to form the Lehigh Valley Railroad, hence the term consolidation. It would basically be one of the most popular locomotives to be built during the height of the steam era. And this B variant was built for the C&O and was classified as a G5. This is the much more modern, up-to-date variant. This will basically be unlocked once we enter the 20th century. As for now, we're going to rely on this engine for later. But let's suspend it on the leaf spring suspension. That'll increase passengers at stations by 4%. And we'll also soon have enough for the panoramic car, which will increase the amount of revenue we earn on our passenger trains. Now that we got that done, let's operate a passenger train between Casper and Great Falls. Put in the word P for passenger. Dining car, mail car. Speed bonus. I'll probably might give it to my log trains. Considering that this train... Wait, hang on. The other guy left. But I do have a new surveyor now, which, with him, tunnel construction prices are now down by 10%. Put this engineer on the Great Falls line, since it has the longest distance to cover. Plus, I gotta get a repair facility up here, too. Oh, and now we have a stoker. Perfect. Plus, we got some passenger trains to work on, too. We already have a passenger service between Houston and San Antonio. So, we'll basically operate a passenger service between San Antonio and Oklahoma City. We'll eventually expand it to freight later on. Put the 440 in service at the mail and dining car. And then put a passenger service between Houston and Odessa. Plus, now that Odessa has a weaving factory, we can now start sending trains of cotton from this farm to the main line. And then we can send it down to a city once it's big enough to build a clothing factory. Expand northwards. Bit of a tricky spot. I'll do. Plus, I have enough room to basically expand into Oklahoma City, and a line to also connect to Denver. This is going to make me a huge amount of money with these new connections. After all, Roger Smith, one of the characters, says more stations equal more profit, and I agree with that prospect. Hopefully, we might be able to get the Transcontinental Railroad line in both the South and the traditional way completed before 1869. When that happens, we'll have our own railroad, our first ever Transcontinental Railroad Corporation. Now, don't get me wrong, Railroad Corporation is a nice game, but it has a bit of a learning curve. I played that game so many times, but somehow I keep going bankrupt. I mean, I try not to, but you know, things happen. But since Odessa is no longer producing meat, we'll have to supply it. But I might as well operate a passenger train between Odessa and Denver. And then one from Odessa to Oklahoma City. Since there's no direct rail connection between Odessa and Oklahoma City, passengers will have to travel the long way around. Hopefully they won't mind. Nope, they won't mind at all. Perfect. Then we'll start operating a freight train between Odessa and Denver, because I believe it's now big enough. Ooh, $5,000. Don't worry, we can get that fixed. And then delivering these supplies to Oklahoma City. But since this train is going to carry meat on the return trip, I'll add a refrigeration car. And I'll also hire the stoker to this new freight train. Oh, the Odessa-Denver freight is handling the meat trains. I better fix that. Ooh, a panoramic car. I'm taking it. Alright. I think it's just because they had some leftover meat in the city, and they just wanted to be disposed of. Now we have enough innovation points for another locomotive, but again, I'm waiting till the right moment to purchase it. Plus, we got some new employees. I'll put the conductor on the Denver-Sioux Falls passenger, and the stoker to the Denver to Oklahoma City freight. And we got an engineer, too. Double bonus. Now, with this 47-mile-an-hour mogul, it will deliver the beer to Denver, from Denver to Oklahoma City, and bring meat back. Transatlantic cable success, America and Europe connected. It would only be a matter of time before Britain and France would be connected via rail with the Channel Tunnel. Now, this is a bit of a tricky situation. Since Oklahoma City is now only producing meat, I'll have to connect it super close to the road. Might as well connect it here at Edison, and just run multiple stock trains between this and between the cattle ranch and Oklahoma City. Put a 1. And I'll assign a Dragon class engine to handle it. On number 2, we still have enough for a couple more trains. And number 4, 4 trains carrying meat to Oklahoma City, meat industry in Albuquerque. I'm not connected there, but it will be eventually happening. I'll purchase the meatpacking plant, upgrade it, and let's see, what else? We also have enough for this innovation, the flying mail, and we got a new task done, transport 190,000 passengers. Though we didn't get the gold check mark. Now, Odessa, the city with the biggest population. That's not gonna be easy, considering that in the east, Washington and New York have big populations. Well, Washington is at 124,000 residents. And I haven't been able to grow as many of these cities as much as I could. Actually, correction, Chicago is the biggest. It's surprising that you can't choose the cities by population. But I might as well allow people to travel to Odessa for either work in the textile factory, as well as to visit the local sites. Like the canyon, like the Rio Grande River, or something like that. Now with the Houston San Antonio. Then we also have enough for a new innovation, the bogie. This will increase our train maintenance speed by 10%. Odessa's not growing. That's because some of the cargo we're supplying is not reached the city. We need to basically have a fulfillment of demand of 60%. I mean, we're supplying the city with meat and beer, but we haven't delivered grain or logs. But that might change because I believe there was a corn farm not too far from here. But I probably might save that when I connect to Albuquerque. Eventually, I think I'll rebuild Odessa into a gasoline town because of its super close proximity to this oil well. What else? Well, we might as well continue the expansion of our line. We'll probably connect to one of the Western Pacific's towns, Walamuka, which was both shared by the Central Pacific and soon to be the Southern Pacific with the Western Pacific Railroad. Again, if I get that wrong, I apologize. Sometimes my railroad history goes a little fuzzy if I haven't kept up with the research after a while. built a big loop, and now we are reaching towards California, as we now have hit Nevada. Now, Salt Lake is producing meat. Guadalupe is producing meat. Normally it's the other way around. Guadalupe is super close to grain farms, but the only grain farms available are up north. But since Salt Lake City is being supplied with grain from Casper, which is not big enough for another industry, it's never big enough for lumber yet. Yes, it is big enough for lumber, so let's add a sawmill. And increase that to produce all these logs that have been stockpiled, as well as producing a ton of beer from this. We also have enough for one more locomotive, the Baldwin 10-wheeler. Considering that these two consolidations are not available until, well, the 1860s. Well, this one from the 1860s, and this one from the 1900s, I think I'll basically pass on that. I think Baker City will be our next destination. Crud, I forgot to add a station. Sometimes I start expanding the track network and I forget to add a city. Well, I forget to add a station at the cities. We'll leave these two track nodes open for the transcontinental main line. And then we can expand the network. While we're using these two track nodes to connect to Great Falls, so we'll just connect it to the transcontinental main line. I think we'll probably save for the connection for California in the next episode. And speaking of episode, I think that'll do it for now. So, if you liked this episode of Texas Gaming Industries' Let's Play a Railway Empire, please be sure to leave a like and comment on the video, as well as subscribe to my channel for new uploads every Friday. So, this is Texas Gaming Industries saying thank you for watching this episode, and I hopefully will see you in the next one. Bye!